curtains have dropped on Season 3 of Wheel of Time, marvelous viewers, and we got ourselves a hella emotional ride to end things up with. Miraculously enough, the showrunners pulled off the impossible. The finale was able to sew together all of those wafting storylines at all the different locations. In fact, the climactic moment of Rand becoming the Kare Karn had plenty of competition from the super intense Moiraine and Lanfear scene, not to mention the Whitehall kill, the theMoghdien atrocities, and so much more. It was bloody, balefiery, and tear-jerking, a bittersweet farewell which begs Amazon Prime to end the suspense and okay that Season 4. Let's waste no time and jump into the finale review, an ending explained where we discuss what RafeJudkins has in store for us, were there to be another season. Real quick, before we get into it, we have a small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. It's a small click for you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's get to it. The episode from a vantage point. This highly anticipated finale brought a great rising as well as a great tragedy. It did both those things beautifully, but I left the show feeling touched more by the sorrow it manifested, rather than feeling chuffed about Rand glory. Episode 8, He Who Comes with the Dawn, explored all the remaining subplots we had in the show after Perrin's Two Rivers story concluded last week, with Perrin in chains, a bit of a cliffhanger. So in episode 8, we had Rand's rise as the leader of the Aiel, which was expected. Then there was the Tanchico arc, and the most surprising of all, the Tar Valon story. The momentous event that we were all waiting for finally happens. Rand al'Thor goes from being the fated Kare Karn to the real thing. This has to be one of the crucial stepping stones leading up to the last battle, so I'm sure the book fans enjoyed watching it as much as the non-book people. The Rand bits were great, but for the most part, until Rand gets into that definitive speech in the Alcair Dal, his story was almost foreshadowed by some of the other stuff going on. That's not really a qualm. I really enjoyed this episode from start to finish. Oh, I absolutely loved that Rand also put Lanfear in her place this time, and I can't wait to get into that in our episodic review. Yes, these two are electric together, but come on, it had to end, and end it did, with a major tantrum from Lanfear. No surprises there. Okay, so the crowning moment for me in the Aiel Waste was the Moiraine and Lanfear showdown. That was so sick, and it appears to be a candid page from one of the futures Morraine saw in the Rue Diane. I was really taken by that mess created by the scheming snake Elaida in the White Tower, but godly, not in a million years did I expect Suan to end up as she did. And lastly, Moghdien and Liandrin hand in glove. I mean, this is probably the beginning of the nastiest evil duo in the Wheel of Time yet. Another reason for Amazon to go full steam ahead with another season for the fans. Alright, so we're getting into a full spoiler review now, followed by the ending explained. So enter at your own risk. Episode 8 in review, at Tar Valon. Since the episode started off with a peek at the times gone by, though never forgotten, 10 years ago in Tar Valon, I think it's only fair we get into the Tar Valon story first. In the flashback, we get a view of all those stories overlooking the hall, and it's magnificent. We are whisked into the story of the vote day, when Suan Sanche ascended to the Amyrlin seat, which has had Elaida salty all this time. This little backstory was a nice touch, an engaging start to the finale, but once we return to the present, Suan seems totally unwilling to recognize the coup in the works within the White Hall. This is surprising considering she knows better than most what Elaida is capable of. She easily falls for the Red Sisters leaving the White Hall trap, and Elaida pulls off her revenge on Suan, at long last. Elaida usurps the Amyrlin seat, and while I wonder how she was able to corrupt so many Aes Sedai into believing her Suan is a Dark Friend story, but she did, and they stilled Suan, confiscating her powers, and then put her to torture. Later, she's brought back for trial, where Elaida, oh how I hate this woman, dons the seat's ritualistic garb and asks Suan to spill the beans. Suan is half dead by now, but she still has the conviction of her beliefs. She lays it down for them. They must follow Rand if the light is to come out on top at the last battle. As she elucidates her cause and her love for Morraine, I couldn't help but think back to the last episode, the time Morraine reached out to her in the dream world, and they pledged to come together in the next life. I know it's just a show, but I was like embarrassingly wet-eyed at this point, wishing that the two of them have that chance indeed. Yes, I'm aware Rosamund Pike and Sophie Okonodo are just fine with their respective families, but that's what this incredible scene did to me. As if stilling and brutalizing Suan wasn't enough, Elaida had her beheaded for her words. And this is when Morraine feels Suan's death all the way in the sands of the Aiel Waste. At the Aiel Waste. The most exciting location for this episode was the Aiel Waste, and it wasn't even about the cinematic wide-shot desert wonder that this location always is. Yes, we still got that gorgeous mix of a ravishing location coupled with CG brilliance, brilliant costuming and concept design, all the good stuff. But it was about the intensity of the quest born from three people out there, Rand, Lanfear, and Morraine. So the Lanfear-Rand thing was beginning to worry me through the season. It was such a strange situation. While Lanfear and Rand's chemistry is undeniable, we all knew there's no fraternizing fraternizing with the devil, right? All this time, Rand falling for her tropes, it was like I really wanted to reach inside the TV screen and shake the man. Wake up, Rand! She sold her soul to the Dark One, remember? At the end, it was probably Egwene telling Rand about Lanfear torturing her in the dream world that finally got him out of it. And just in time, too. The dream sequence Rand and Egwene played up for Lanfear was a special one for me, because finally, the realization hits Lanfear. Rand knows exactly what she's all about. Her inflated ego and hunger for power is what informs everything she does. And Rand tells her how it is. Ah, sweet. Just awesome to watch Lanfear fall from grace, and then Egwene banishing her from the dream as she goes berserk over the rejection. But just when I thought she got hers, I had to remind myself that it's Lanfear. She'll be back for more, which made me wonder why Rand and the others chose to take the fight to Lanfear at all. That day, right when Rand was getting ready to stake his claim on the Kare Karn. Did they really need another challenge? Anyway, with Lanfear threatening to spoil Rand's party, Rand has no choice but to move on to Alcair Dal. Ruark and the Tardot go with him. Morraine has got that unfortunate hat of hers on again, and from the get-go, she has a feeling that Lanfear is going to kill her. Okay, so Morraine and Rand have a proper heart-to-heart just before the ish hits the fan. They both put their guards down and have a moment of gratefulness. Maybe Morraine was spurred on to do this by the closeness to death that she felt at that time. Rand and her open up to each other, and Rand finally said thank you, a gesture I'm glad the writers kept for the very last episode, as it shows how far these two characters have come, after all their ups and downs. After Lanfear makes a dirty play using Couladin, the Shido hothead, you'll remember from the Meridian episode, Rand's Kare Karn status is challenged by this guy. At another part of the desert, Morraine has ditched the dreary hat and is dressed to kill in blue, as she cradles the Sakarnan. A grand duel ensues between Lanfear and her, here, and damn, Lanfear is strong. Lan was warned about Lanfear by Melindra, so he doubles down on Lanfear with Morraine. At this point in the episode, every moment that we had been waiting for from the very beginning of the season appears to have collated. We switch between the Lanfear-Morraine action, Rand claiming his purpose, and a savage Suan dropping truth bombs in the White Hall. The intensity really cranks up in the last 15 minutes of the episode. Well, we've already covered Suan's tragic end, but Morraine's reaction to it on the other side was heartbreaking. Morraine feels it happen and is shattered. While Lanfear takes the moment to stick a sword into her, Morraine's grief is too powerful. She pulls that sword right out of her body, and gosh, that was grim and powerful. She slits Lanfear's throat up. That's Lanfear's cue to get out of there, and she does. Morraine and Lanfear will repair from their respective wounds. I mean, it is the Wheel of Time after all, and these ladies have been known to patch up the worst of gashes, like an eraser on a pencil mark. But Morraine is emotionally crushed. Oh, I have to mention Samael before I totally forget. Samael started out from being the legend of the Age of Legends, the one who discovered the art of war again, after ages of peace, to a tied-down captive, and lastly, to becoming the nastiest installation of gore, bloody skin, and ligament I have ever seen. God, that was hard to watch. Samael's story promised much, but amounted to little in this season, if I'm being honest. At best, he was Moghdien's guinea pig. Meanwhile, Rand's strategy to gain his standing with the Aiel is simple, yet hard. It's the truth. He speaks the truth to the Aiel lining the sand dunes, and then he begins to channel. Right there, I was beginning to wonder how exactly Couladin was planning on deceiving the clans into thinking he is it. He didn't have a plan at all. No powers, merely a weak speech. Anyway, so what happens next cements Rand's claim. He powers up what looks like a storm high up in the skies, but it comes down as rain. The rain wets the entire desert, and for the people who have learned to live without much water, this is a calling from above. They bend a knee to him, and Rand al'Thor finally becomes the Kare Karn. At Tanchico, all the bad ladies, please stand up. And they do. Liandrin and her gang of Black Aja and Moghedien have done a far better job of getting the male Adam pieces than Nynaeve, Elaine, Matt, and Min, if you ask me. And the results are before us. Moghedien gives her piece of the bracelet to Liandrin, and she zips into the Benarch's palace, looking for the collar, with Nye, Elaine, and the rest at her tail. There's some nice hide-and-seek that happens here. Everyone in different corners of the creepy palace looking for the collar, which is like a magical silver ring that turns into a collar. Okay, so Tom ends up popping the balloon on the Lord Gabriel story for Elaine. I was beginning to wonder if Robin's compulsion over Morghese would come up again this season, and it did. This was right before Jean Katie uses her Terangrial on Elaine and Tom, and it was cool to see that laser balefire-like beam that Elaine fully eviscerates Jean with soon after. Matt's jaunt into the palace was interesting, as he came face to face with an Aelfin, after he walked into their realm through a redstone door. That guy looked spectacular. Blue, animalistic, red hair, red eyes, very cool, very foxy. crazy. The Aelfin actually helps Matt out in more ways than one. He gives him 3 wishes, but Matt, unfamiliar with the ways of the Aelfin, forgets to put any terms on them. There's this smothering, painful price to pay for that Aelfin visit for Matt. He's left hanging by the neck when he leaves their realm, just like Min's vision. So I was naturally glad to see Min come to the rescue and perform the most violent CPR in history on poor Matt. But it's all good, because it worked. Matt's alive and no voices in his head. There's some loss of memory, but overall, Matt came out of that experience on top, I'd say. The Aelfin gave him a fox head medallion, which will probably be pretty important if and when season 4 happens. And lastly, we're left with Nynaeve. She disregards her own advice and lingers near the water, waiting for her friends, instead of fleeing once she has the collar. And Liandrin catches up. While Nye tries to implore to Liandrin's good nature, she swiftly finds out that there's none of it left. Liandrin grabs the collar, chains Nynaeve, and tosses her to the bottom of the sea. This pressured situation causes Nye to release her powers, but the collar is gone. So, I mean, the unleashing of her powers could have happened at a better time. Just 30 seconds earlier would have been perfect. Ending explained. At the end of this amazing episode, we have plenty of takeaways, enough to make me wish for another season of WOT for the gazillionth time. Elida is now in control of the White Tower, and Suan Sanche is quite dead. This is a great setback for Rand and his campaign for the impending last battle. Not to mention, there's still a Black Aja in the White Tower, which no Aes Sedai seems to be thinking of anymore. So far, there's been some suspicion on Varen Sedai. Varen Mathwin, the Brown Aja, is a person that comes across as both loyal and suspicious. There have been a few hints in the show that points to her being the Black One in hiding, played by Mira Sial. The character of Varen Sedai has more than a few of us asking the question, is she a good guy or not? We'll steer clear of any book spoilers here, but I will mention this. The fact that we, the viewers, are led to ask that question at all goes on to show the enigma that Varen represents. The show seems to be building her up, slowly but surely, so that later down the line, the viewers may understand the depths of her complexities. The Rand arc is consistently moving upward, and it better. I mean, Rand is the apex hero of the long and expansive Wheel of Time lore, but his story has kind of been eclipsed at many a point this season. And I understand, there are a plethora of other stories we've got going on. There are many important characters to factor in. But yeah, we only see 3 episodes of this season where Rand's arc was the prime focus, and it left me wanting, just a little. So Elaine is now in the know that she and her mother are under a Forsaken's compulsion, and that should take her straight to Andor from Tanchico. But given that Robin's ability with the compulsion weaves is way stronger than Moghdien's, and Moghdien recently turned Elaine into a bumbling, mumbling schoolgirl with her weave, how Elaine manages to dodge Robin and free Morgase is something I'm interested to see in the show. On to the dark side now. We have ourselves a team-up of the villains. First off, there's Lanfear and Robin, who have joined hands to evade Moghdien's sneaky tactics. And a sneaky one she is, that Moghdien. She may not be the strongest of the Forsaken, but she is one of the most interesting to watch. She's smart and ruthless, and absolutely mental. She stalks and waits and catches her prey at their weakest moment, and then she strikes. She's an absolute beast with how she kills too, and she's always got me on complete attention when she's on screen. Hats off to the insane stylings of Laia Costa for sure. Which brings us to our other baddies team, Moghedien and Liandrin. I'm more excited about this link-up than I am Lanfear and Robin, honestly. Even though the latter are definitely more powerful, Moghedien and Liandrin have got ambition and drive, and that'll do it for me. Marvelous verdict. As everyone else, I'm also hoping that this is not the end of the road for the Wheel of Time series. But if the show is renewed, I really do hope that the storylines merge a little closer, so the baddies team-ups get physically closer to Rand. I like Season 3, and I feel that Episode 4, The Road to the Spear, was the artistic highlight. But the finale was also quite amazing, in that every little story was well concluded. I was left with an all-around sense of foreboding by the end of it, and I do wish for just one more reason where the subplots converge closer to the Dragon Reborn, as they did in much of the previous seasons. I'd also like to watch the season culminate on high, rather than a terribly morose low, as I feel getting out of this one. Now, don't misunderstand me, I love the finale. Suan's death is just bearing pretty heavy on me right now, I guess. So that's the end of the Wheel of Time Ending Explained series by us. If you want us to continue to cover the Wheel of Time saga and the news related to a potential season 4, be sure to tell us in the comments. Your support is our driving force. And if you haven't watched this episode yet, please go ahead. Take care, Marvelous fam. Ciao! And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.